Welcome to RISKSA TV. We're not in studio today, we're at the Santam head office in Belleville, and we're joined by Ian Kirk. Thank you so much for having us in your office here today.
My pleasure.
Ian, you've been chosen as one of our newsmakers of the year. Your passion in the industry is lauded. There's a lot of negativity around though, so tell us what there is to be excited about. What keeps you motivated?
Look, I think there is, we're going through a tough time in South Africa, economy-wise. The industry is under pressure, there's no doubt. But, as I've often said, it's in tough times that you get up, there are opportunities that arise that don't arise when the wind is at your back. And for me, it's about the business and how the business is done. It's a 96-year-old business. So if we take a period of 18 months or 2 years when we're under pressure, for me the thing is to, keep the chin up, keep the head up, see the opportunity. Yes, you've got to deal with the threats and the exposures. But in times like that is when you can really move the business forward. And that's what I try and speak to my colleagues about, because to be honest with you, a lot of the stuff is outside of our control. So you can get upset about the hail, you can get upset about the economy, you can get upset about the flooding, or you can adapt and try and deal with it. And that's, for me, that's the great thing about business. If it was easy all the time, anyone could do it, right? Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? So for me it's about, see the opportunity in the tough times. And I really do believe that. I really believe it, sincerely, that in tough times there are opportunities that you don't get.
And you are a great person to see that. And how exactly do you go about making sure that everyone else keeps their chin up as well? How do you encourage them?
No, it's about communicating and talking, and about sincerity. It's a very important thing, this sincerity, because people test you on that stuff. They say, do I walk the talk? Do you just talk about it? Absolutely. Or do you believe it? And I get tested with this all the time. CEOs talk about the people. I talk about the people and the importance about the people in the business, and lots of CEOs do that. But as I say, this CEO knows it. I know it. Yeah. Fundamentally know it, given my history and given my experience at Santam in the time I've been here, that the people make the difference. So it's about your authenticity too. And if you really believe it, I think life makes it a lot easier with your colleagues, because we've got clever people here. They see these things, they trust. They look at you and they say, this guy's telling a story.
Yeah.
So there's no space for that. It is what it is.
Not really something that can be learned. It's just a
I think I think it cuts to your authenticity and what you really believe in.
Yeah.
And you get tested on that as the CEO, all the time.
Absolutely.
And rightly so. Rightly so.
You picked up on some of the challenges. The hail, for one, was a big thing.
Climate change. It's part of the climate change. The hail. Are we going to be lucky this year? We got belted the last 2 years. But it's more than just the hail. It's the flooding. It's the exposure on the ground. It's the state of the municipal infrastructure. It's all that stuff.
Yeah, there are, as you say, a lot of challenges today. What stands out for you as the single biggest challenge that you think insurers and intermediaries, especially for our audience, have faced over the last year?
I think the regulation is problematic.
Okay.
Very, very problematic. And creates a lot of anxiety for insurers, for intermediaries. What does it mean? How does it get interpreted? How do I deal with it? It's a big, big issue, that.
How do you deal with that in your company?
Well, I think we, as the leading insurer and particularly the leading intermediated insurers at Santam, we have a responsibility to sustain the model. And that doesn't mean that you just hug the brokers and love the brokers and do all the stuff. That's an important element, but it's about hard-nosed business, making sure that the intermediaries can sustain it, working with them, helping them deal with the regulation, making them feel comfortable that we're the right place for them to work with, right organization to work with, and just getting through this phase, because it is a phase.
Yeah.
It is a phase. We've seen it coming, it's coming down, the regulation is coming down, the first world regulation, we can see it. We don't quite know how it's going to land in South Africa, how it's going to be adapted. And that is our responsibility, I think, to work with our partners and to get the right answer at the end of the day. Yeah. And one other big thing, that is where the customer, the policyholder, fits in this whole thing. We mustn't lose sight of that in this whole element, because, as you know, there's been substantial change now in where the customer fits in this whole mixture. So the whole concept of customer centricity and what it means, and how do we handle that?
Yeah.
How do we make sure we deliver on the requirements of each customer?
Mm. And they have a stronger voice now.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely. You know, absolutely. And that's not just an insurance thing.
Yeah.
That is just how it is. Technology is a big game changer. Social media, massive. You know, there's a whole lot of things that have changed the picture.
Mm.
And there it's quite interesting, you know, because you can again adapt to these things and see the opportunity positively, or you can get yourself in a complete hole. You know, I can remember 10, 15 years ago saying that the banks are going to stitch up the insurers. The banks had that interface with the customer as a regular thing. And I remember this so clearly, and I remember thinking, yeah, it makes sense. But how do we adapt? Well, we're still in business.
Yeah.
The banks haven't cleaned us out.
Oh.
We're working with the banks. In fact, some of the banks have failed at this whole insurance thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have tossed it in.
Yeah.
In the UK, they didn't succeed. Now the regulator comes back to them and he says, listen, we're not happy with some of these things. So, you know, it's all to do with how you adapt. But that's the great thing about business. As I say, you know, if it was easy, anyone could do it.
Yeah.
And it's that challenge that comes with the business that certainly, I think, for me, it's just, you know, it sustains me.
Yeah.
It's what I love. It's what the challenge part of it is. Yeah, we will survive. Because, you know, at the end of the day, there's customers, there's a need for the product. And, you know, I always say the general insurance is the DNA of capitalism.
Yeah.
It really is, because, I mean, the need is there. I mean, we are out there making claim payments every day that put people back on their feet.
Yeah.
That's our job.
Absolutely.
And as long as we do that, people will recognize the value.
Yeah.
There'll be challenges, of course, but you know, we're needed. We as an industry are needed.
Absolutely.
The capitalist system, as we understand it, can't really work without general insurance. So that's, you know, and I'm not saying everything's perfect, and I'm not saying we're the only solution to the problem. And I recognize that there are challenges, because you've got capital here and you've got customers here and risks, and you've got to make sure that you're efficient, that you're taking that capital and applying it to the need. And that's the whole thing, what the insurance industry does. And as long as we're efficient at doing that, there's a space for us in the sun, and the intermediaries, obviously, with us. But I'm not naive to the challenges.
Yeah.
They are substantial. There's been major change, and there needs to be.
Do you think there are any areas, you're mentioning all these challenges, technology, regulation, are there any areas that are perhaps a little underreported on that people, you know, might be caught by surprise with? Not many people seem to be paying a lot of attention to climate change, but I know for your organisation it's certainly a key part.
Look, I think the risk on the ground is not fully understood and not fully researched, and we could be doing more on that. Okay, that's the one thing. The other neglected area, I think, is the issue of transformation and the technical skills and the management pool that's available to us today.
Okay.
Those are things that if I sort of look back and say we could have done more on. Yes, you're right, we do quite a bit in this business here, but as an industry, I'm not sure we're doing enough about it.
Mm-hmm.
We could have done more on both those things. I'm not sure we're fully reflecting in our rating some of these substantial risks that exist on the ground. And we could do that better. And not just in our rating, also in our mitigation actions. I mean, I attended a very interesting workshop about 2 weeks ago, which was put together on sprinkler systems. I mean, you know, it's not something I deal with every day, but I mean, there was a lot of stuff, and I think we could have dealt with that a little bit better. We could have higher standards, we could have better standards, we could insist on more as insurers. There's too many cracks that appear. The fire loss statistics are frightening. I think we could have done better. Okay, that's on the risk on the ground. On the transformation side, we're just struggling as an industry with that professional layer. We just don't have enough talent in that. So we haven't attracted enough, we haven't developed enough. We've retained reasonably well, but we could have done more if I look back as an industry. Yes, we've achieved a lot, don't get me wrong. I mean, and it's a wonderful thing when I walk through the organization here and I see how different it is than it was. When I attend the IIG dinner and I walk around the tables and I see the demographics are completely different. We can be proud of that. I still think we could have done a little bit more. But it's just, you can't get everything right.
Yeah, and
you can't beat yourself up on everything.
Yeah,
we've done a lot.